Tilda Swinton, Idris Elba, George Miller in his follow-up to Mad Max Fury Road. I could not have been more excited for this movie, but is it good, or does it feel like 3,000 years in the theater? What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I should have said 3,000 years of watching. There's no going back. Today we're going to talk about the brand new George Miller film. This is one that I just didn't really know all that much about. I saw the trailer multiple times, had no clue what the story was. Is the film worth watching? Let's dive in right now. So, a lonely and bitter British woman discovers an ancient bottle while on a trip to Istanbul and unleashes a Djinn who offers her 3 wishes. Filled with apathy, she is unable to come up with one until his stories spark in her desire to be loved. As always, let's start with the rating. This film is rated R for some sexual content, graphic nudity, and very brief violence. I would not say it's a family film. So you read that summary, you see the trailer, and you're thinking to yourself, I still don't know what this movie is about necessarily, but sometimes that's the best. Going into a film and you have no concept as to where it is going to be going. Let's start at the beginning with Tilda Swinton's character, a character who is content with being alone, likes the idea of being a strong, independent person that doesn't necessarily need anyone else. And she's on her way to a place that requires her to be fully focused and competent, but she's unable to do that because she keeps seeing these strange things, these strange beings that are almost following her around. But what's truly messing with her head is the fact that she picked up this object on her trip to Istanbul, and she unleashes this massive being, at least he is at the beginning in Idris Elba's character. He's essentially a version of the genie from Aladdin. Well, he's playing a genie, and I got so many Aladdin vibes throughout the first act of this film, right? But he comes out and he says, I'm going to offer you 3 wishes. I know you're going to want to ask me something, right? But here are the rules. What are you going to do? And to his surprise, she does not want to make a wish. Not only is she not trusting what he is saying, but there's this level of curiosity that she has about him, and she wishes to know more of him. Like, where did he come from? And is he truly who or what he says he is? And that sets up the story. That sets up what the film truly is, which, to my disappointment, was a series of tales regarding his past, kind of building up to where these two characters go together in the third act. And I won't dive into what. I don't want to spoil the film for you. But instead of capitalizing on the momentum of the first act of this film, and even though I didn't fully know where it was going, I was at least interested because I loved the chemistry between the two characters. I thought it was really good. The acting here, Idris Elba, Tilda Swinton, 2 of the best in the business. Of course they're going to work. They're going to work under the banner of director George Miller. Mad Max Fury Road. Some of the best action movies of all time in the Mad Max films. The guy knows how to direct a competent and cohesive movie and gave us a nice setup at the beginning of this film that, unfortunately, for me at least, went nowhere interesting. That's too harsh. I don't want to say nowhere interesting because, again, when they are on screen together, you can physically see them and they have that chemistry, and she starts to grow as a character. That's when I was kind of hooked on what was going on. But when we're exploring his past and he's telling these tales throughout different time periods, when we come across situations of people making these wishes to him, I just did not find those stories to be all that interesting. The imagery on screen did not quite match the story that was being told. And I'm not entirely sure if George Miller's touch, which normally works for the type of movie that he's making, I'm not sure if it added anything. In my opinion, it kind of took away what the story was, because some of these moments were really serious and emotional, but we're getting this over-the-top and somewhat ridiculous imagery mixed with some CGI and special effects that frankly did not look all that good. And again, you think George Miller, you think practical action. It's not an action movie, but you think beautiful effects. Well, the visual effects here, maybe leaning too heavily into CGI territory, they just didn't quite work for me, right? And the film is trying to be deep. We're exploring the loneliness and the longing of this character. And one thing that's hit upon, especially in the final 20 minutes, is love. But I did not feel the passion behind those concepts from this film, because the entirety of the middle portion of what we're getting here is full of these nonsensical moments, and the movie is all about a character telling a story, yet the storytelling in this film was so choppy, and we're moving from, time period to time period, location to location. I was never truly hooked by any of the stories that he was telling. It's starting to lose what should have worked best about this, and that's the characters at the center. The two core characters played by phenomenal actors that are so interesting, but they continue to get lost in the story that's getting in the way of what made the first 15 minutes so captivating. And really, the final 10 minutes, there's a lot to that should have worked and should have made me, shed a tear or two. I guess I could approach this like a series of fairy tales, and anytime you have Idris Elba telling a story, it should be interesting. And I think it could have worked for maybe a series of short films. I just didn't really have an emotional attachment to this movie. As hard as I tried, and as much as I tried to dive into the themes as we were going, I never got there, and unfortunately, I was so disappointed for most of this movie, even though it started strong and it ended strong. There is one line in the midst of enjoying some of these moments that stuck out to me. Swinton's character says, "All stories about wishing are a cautionary tale." And that's an approach that is taken here that should have been explored a bit more, that I thoroughly enjoyed. But before I give you guys my score, I need to know your thoughts down below. Were you looking forward to this? Are you a fan of George Miller? And if you enjoyed this review, be sure to drop that like if you want. The effort to make this series of tales feel distinct and stylistic pays off, but they never serve the story at hand. When the two leads are at the forefront, the movie thrives, but most of the film is spent telling stories that are far less engaging. Again, the two performances are great. Unfortunately, I just didn't like this film. I'm going to 43% with my score. I understand I'll be in the minority there. That's fine. It just did not work for me. And I have to be honest with you guys. So what do you think of 3,000 years of longing? I am so curious to see what people think. All right, guys. I'll be seeing you very soon with more reviews. See you later.